So today I want to talk to you about what it looks like to begin to work with a client who has an outstanding balance. Now, if you are doing tax prep, like most of us who have done some amount of tax prep, I don't do a lot, but I do some tax prep. And a lot of those clients end up owing balances. So if you have a client who has a balance, who has not worked with you all year, who has not worked with you to make sure that they don't have a balance at the end of the year, then there are some things you can do to work with them right now. So there are four main things. The very first thing that you should be doing if a client owes a balance is assessments. So you want to assess the case to see why they are owing a balance. You also want to see if there are any other years they owed a balance, especially if this is a new client. So if this is a new client, you don't know if they've owed a balance in prior years. If it's not a new client, then you know maybe they owe balances in other years. Maybe the client has told you I have balances from prior years. Maybe they have multiple years of returns which have not been filed. You're getting all of those files. There are going to be penalties and things like that that are going to come up, and you can help them resolve it. What you need to do is get a full picture of that though. So you need a copy of transcripts. You need to place a hold on their account sometimes so that the IRS can't move against them while you're trying to get all of these things figured out. You also want to try to put together a game plan for them. And you want to see if this is something they can pay in full or not. So the assessment really helps you to understand all of those things. You're going to be getting the transcripts for multiple years. That's going to help you understand if there is a balance, what the balances are, what the penalties are, if penalties can be removed, any of that kind of stuff. So that's the very first thing that you want to do is assess the case. The second thing, after you have all the information and you have a full game plan outlined, you want to take time to sit down and review your results with the client. You want to tell them what it looks like to work with you, what it looks like to resolve this matter, what their monthly payment might be. If they have to do an installment payment, you want to let them know if it's something they can pay in full. Ask them if it's something they can pay in full. You want to outline, what their different options are. So the second step is to review all of your findings. I call this your game plan. So in your game plan, you're just outlining everything that you found. You want to give them options in terms of what it is that they can do, how they can resolve this matter the most efficiently, and how to remain compliant going forward. So all of this you want to detail in your review, including setting up something for what it looks like to work with you going forward, because we don't want them to fall into this pattern of continuing to owe year after year. Clients say this to me all the time. I owed a balance from a few years ago, and every year a little bit more gets added. I'm making payments, but it seems like those payments aren't doing anything. And the reason why the payments aren't doing anything is each additional year, they're owing even more. So if you continue to owe year after year after year, that balance continues to get bigger. You're making payments. Guess what? Your monthly payments are getting bigger. The balance isn't going down because things keep getting added year over year. We got to find out what's causing the bleeding, what's causing you to keep owing year after year. And then we want to address that, right? We want to address it to say, if this is what's causing you to owe every year, we don't want you to keep owing every year. So let's figure out what the issue is and resolve it. And let's put something in place so that going forward, you no longer have this. For a lot of clients, it could be that they filed exempt, or that their withholdings are too low if it's a W-2 job. If it's a business, a lot of times I find you're not making your estimated payment. So that's the reason why you keep owing. Regardless, we have to find out what's going on and then help you get into some sort of compliance to make sure going forward, you are not going to default again, which throws out whatever we prepared to begin with. So we set up a payment plan. If we set up an offer or fresh start program, some of you have heard that term before. If we settled on the balance, however you've heard it, anything we've done, once you owe a new balance, is thrown out. So we need to get clarity to make sure that going forward, you're not going to owe. We got to make sure all payments are made on time. All estimated payments are made. We have to make sure returns are filed on time. All the things that fall into compliance are the things that you need to do in step 3 for your clients to make sure going forward they're all set. And the last thing that you want to make sure that you do is make sure the third thing that you want to do is get into some sort of implementation, right? You want to implement this for your clients. So now that you've outlined what the issues are, you know what they can and can't do, you've outlined the price points for them, you've set up a game plan, you've agreed on what the game plan looks like, all of those things. Now you want to work with the client to actually do the implementation. So you want to get them into whatever installment agreement they ask for and offer and compromise, not collectible status if they can get that. Even getting them into a partial payment plan, which is basically you're making payments, but let's say your payments are supposed to be $500 a month, but instead of the client making $500 a month payments, they're making $50 a month payments. That's called a partial pay installment agreement. So if your client qualifies for that and you can assist them with putting that in place, you want to then put that in place for them. And as a result, you'll be able to get them into that piece of the compliance. The back end of that is making sure going forward, you don't have any issues and they remain compliant. Because if at any point they don't make their estimated payments, they miss a tax payment, even if it's $1, and they on the deadline of the tax return that it's due, it's not paid, they throw out the installment agreement. And now they keep adding new balances. And that's why you sometimes have clients who say, I've been making these payments year over year over year. The amount that I'm paying each month is getting bigger, but the balance is not going down. And every year I keep just owing more and more and more. That is a compliance issue, right? They're in a situation where they're making payments, but there's this piece of this process where I call it bleeding. There's bleeding that's continuing to happen year over year over year over year. And they're not addressing it. They might not know how to address it. So you can be the person to come in, be their hero and say, let's address it for you. I'm going to show you what it looks like to address this issue. So you address it with them, you get it resolved. And as a result, they are able to get into compliance and make sure that going forward, not only did they get into whatever payment plan or pay off the balance, whatever it was that they did, but going forward, they're not going to have any issues too. So that kind of leads me into step 4, which is the compliance piece, right? So step 3 was the implementation of the offer, the payment plan, whatever it is that they're doing. Step 4 is the compliance piece. You want to make sure that going forward, they're not going to have those issues, right? Because it's going to throw out whatever you did in step 3. So you want to be clear on what you need to do in step 3. And then step 4, you want to make sure that going forward, they're not going to have new balances. You want to make sure that going forward, they are going to be in full compliance. Their estimated payments are getting paid. Their returns are being filed on time. All of those things. I call this account monitoring. So one of the things I teach our students is to monitor your clients' accounts. And we do that through a few things, including pulling transcripts every month to make sure that payments are getting made, they're being properly applied, and we're ensuring that those clients are remaining compliant so the balance doesn't continue to grow and the clients can get out of this cycle, right? The goal is to get them to pay this off. They don't want to pay the IRS for forever. And they also don't want to be in a situation where they constantly owe year after year after year after year. They can get off this hamster wheel, but it is going to take some assistance, some guidance. And that's where you step in and become the hero. So you step in with the compliance. So today we talked about 4 things. Let's recap them. The very first thing is assessments. Can you assess the case? And what does it look like to get this resolved? Looking at prior years, pulling transcripts, talking to the IRS, all the things that you need to do to make sure your client is properly assessed so that you can outline a game plan. Step 2 is talking to that client about the game plan that you outlined. This is what you owe. These are the years you owe. This is what your monthly payment might look like. And this is how I can help you resolve it. So you go over that with the client on a call. Now, step 3 is to then do the implementation of what it is you outlined. Client says, great, I want to move forward. Step 3, you're going to implement it. And then step 4 is compliance to make sure that going forward, you will ensure that they are not continuing to have these new balances and stay in the cycle of owing year after year after year. So those are your 4 steps. If you are somebody who has clients that owe, you don't have to be an enrolled agent. You don't have to be a CPA. You can do this with them. To find out how you can get assistance on learning how to help your clients with their balances and not turning them over to other professionals, feel free to click on the link in the comments and schedule a call so you can join our community. We have a community that helps professionals learn how to do this and charge between $2,000 to $5,000 for these. And we assist clients with setting these up and we assist our students with setting these up for their clients so that they can make money and keep the client in-house. Want to learn more? Go ahead and click the link in the comments and I'll be happy to have a discussion with you to see if you're a great fit for our community. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today and stay tuned for the next lesson.